Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Easter Pod. I'm your host, Corey Easterday, and on this episode, we are chatting with the one and only George Marks. This episode and this intro to the podcast are very special because whether this is your first time checking out the podcast or you're an avid listener over our 27 episodes to this point, which is crazy to think about, this episode officially marks a new era for the Easter Pod. Yay! We're all so excited out there in podcast land. We just announced on social media, I'll tell you why it's a new era and why you should be excited. We just announced on social media this week that we have some incredible looking and brand new design work for the podcast, courtesy of my friend JD Laird. He's a genius. His creative and branding company, Token, are incredible. They did some just absolutely amazing branding and design work for us. So that's all over social media, at the Easter Pod on social media, at the Easter Dude for my personal social media. You can see some of the branding that Token did for us. And not only that, but along with the new look, the Easter Pod and Easterday Creative are finally joining forces. Easterday Creative is a company that my wife Megan and I own. And we've been dreaming up ways to enhance the storytelling abilities of both creative enterprises, Easterday Creative and the Easter Pod. And so going forward, you'll see a lot more connection and opportunities to showcase more of the rad humans we have the pleasure of knowing. Easterday Creative does photography, marketing, and now we're working to get this podcast in there and be able to chat with a lot more of the amazing people that we know. So in joining forces, we have a renewed mission for the podcast. And so the Easter Pod is going to bring you stories of rad humans who inspire you to engage the world with creativity and hope. The podcast has evolved into something beyond my wildest dreams and really has been just an incredible journey to this point. I started it in February 2020, which is just wild to think about. It's been 4 years, but we're still going strong, only getting better, and I'm super pumped to start a brand new chapter and can't wait to see where it goes from here. Before I kind of dive into the rest of this intro here, tell you about the episode, the biggest of shout outs to everyone who has listened, supported, shared, been a guest, and contributed their talents in any way to make this show successful. I really, even though it's called the Easter Pod and I'm Corey Easterday, the host, I really have viewed this the whole way through as a community effort, and a lot of people have lended their talents and themselves to help make this show successful and make it awesome. And major shout out once again to the genius of JD Laird and Token for working their magic to help take this podcast to the next level. For today's episode in particular, I am super excited to have George Marks on the podcast. George is a great friend, a great human being, and he's a goalkeeper for Charlotte FC, which is the MLS team located right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we dive into a lot in this conversation. We cover a lot of topics, including his personal soccer journey, how he got his start playing, how it evolved from there, how he ended up on a career path that led him to playing for Charlotte FC and being a professional athlete. We talk about what it's like to be a part of the club. For those of you that don't know, Charlotte FC only had their inaugural season. I think it was the 2022-23 season, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's only been a couple years. It's only been a few years here. And so just what it's been like to be a part of that, because he came into the league around that same time. So cool to talk about his journey just being in Charlotte, playing for the team, and his emphasis on community involvement off the field stuff and our partnership through that with the Laundry Project. So covers so much, so many things in this episode. It was a really great conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. And hey, while you're at it, when you're done with this episode, be sure to check out our last episode with the founder and CEO of Current Initiatives, the Laundry Project, Jason Sowell. Jason and I have been friends for a very long time. I've had him on the pod a couple times now. He's always been a great guest, just talking about his personal story, what's like leading Current Initiatives, the work we do with the Laundry Project in Charlotte and in 18 states across the country, I had him when he was in town last summer. Just incredible guest, incredible human. So be sure to check that out. Always a fun conversation. And last but not least, be sure to follow the show on social media at the Easter Pod and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice so you never miss an episode. We have a lot of really phenomenal guests lined up this year. I've already been recording episodes, going to be bringing those out to you in the near future. So stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss those. And if you're in the Charlotte area or, we're in 18 states, so there's a good chance wherever you're listening, there's some opportunity to get connected with the Laundry Project. But George and I talk a lot about that here in Charlotte specifically. And if you're interested in getting involved with the Laundry Project in Charlotte or any of our host cities, you can check out laundrybycurrent.org and see a list of those host cities. And you can follow us on social media at Engage Current. Before we dive in, special thanks to my friend Corey Easterday and Speak Seldom for creating the music for this episode. And once again, shout out to JD and Token. Not only do they do incredible branding and design work, but they help to produce this episode. Your one-stop creative shop. This is not a paid ad. I just love working with Token. They're awesome. You can check out their work by visiting tokencreative.co and check out George Marks on social media at George Marks _31 on Instagram, at George Marks _24 on X. It's funny because toward the end of the episode, as you'll hear, we were trying to figure out what his social handles were, thinking that you'll hear at the end of the episode, but it was just a funny aside we had arguing about. I was trying to figure out what his social media handles were in real time, blah, blah, blah. We figured it out. So at George Marks _31 on Instagram, at George Marks _24 on X, and Charlotte FC at Charlotte FC on all social platforms. Without further ado, my conversation with George Marks. Well, I am very, very, very excited for today's episode of the Easter Pod and to welcome my guest. For any fans of Charlotte FC, the very popular and awesome MLS team here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and those local to the Charlotte area, my guest is a very beloved guy, and he's an awesome guy at that. We've become friends over the last several months, and it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know him. He's a goalkeeper for Charlotte FC, and so much more as we'll dive into in this episode. George Marks, welcome to the Easter Pod. How are you doing today?
Thank you, man. That was a fantastic intro. Really made it hard to follow, but no, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk shop with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. And listen, I didn't even have most of that intro written down like I usually do. I did it off the cuff because genuinely, I think you're a great guy. It's been great getting to know you these last several months. So it's easy to say nice things about you and give you hopefully one of the best intros you've ever received being on a podcast.
Dude, I appreciate it. We've had some good times. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, mostly at laundromats, oddly enough, which we'll get into. Yeah. Okay, so for the uninitiated, I gave a little bit of context up top. You're a goalkeeper with Charlotte FC. That's the Major League Soccer team here in Charlotte for folks that maybe aren't familiar. So, give us a little bit more context about kind of who you are, what you're doing now, maybe how you and I got connected specifically, kind of what led us to be at this point, and then we can dive into some more of your career and all that. But I'd love for folks that are unfamiliar, just kind of get the basics of who you are and what we're doing today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess kind of to start from the top, I'm, like you said, George Marks. I'm just turned 24. Probably the most defining thing at the moment is, professional goalkeeper for Charlotte FC. I define myself a lot by my family. Those are some of my most important people. So I've got a younger sister, and her name's Sydney. She's a senior at Michigan. She's about to graduate, going to the real world here in a second. Excited for her to do that. And then my parents, they're both veterinarians. They have recently just moved down to Clemson University, my alma mater, to begin. My dad was named the founding dean of the vet school, so that's super exciting. But yeah, really, really, really lucky to have such great family and people supporting me, and have been doing so for a long time. So, for every bit of success I've ever had, I probably attribute the vast majority of it to them. But yeah, so I'd say I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm from the Carolinas, which makes it really cool to be a part of the Charlotte FC team from the start. And I feel like I have a unique sense of pride in being a part of the first major professional soccer team in the Carolinas, because I remember growing up and wanting there to be a team pretty badly. And maybe at the time I would have preferred it to be in Raleigh, but I'm pretty fortunate to see it pan out how it did. But yeah, so I kind of mentioned a little bit before, my alma mater is Clemson. Really, really proud to be a Clemson Tiger. Had some of my most formative years there, from 2018 to the winter of 2021, which was it was fantastic. Won a few trophies, became a much better man, as I said. Was able to get in some of my biggest passions, like sports psychology, service in general, community service, and kind of just trying to find my niche outside of the soccer field, because I figured out pretty early on, the soccer field was a pretty big stage for me and something that I wanted to define at least this portion of my life. But trying to find out who George Marks was off the field, I think Clemson was a big, big piece of that for me. And that kind of leads to how I know you a little bit. I think at Clemson, like I said, finding myself off the field, a big theme for me right off the bat was one of the biggest things that I wanted to do off the soccer field, that I wanted to define my life, was to serve others. And I thought I got a lot back from that. I knew that I was benefiting other people, and I didn't really want to live a life where I wasn't able to serve others. So, what that looked like, I was really fortunate at Clemson, really grateful for some fantastic people there. Student athlete development was something I got involved in very early. So kind of into the student council of sorts of student athletics or student athletes. So by my senior year, I was president of something called STAC, which was Student Athlete Advisory Committee. And through that, we were able to, provide a lot of community service opportunities for all student athletes at Clemson, whether it be with any demographic from elementary school kids to, the people at Clemson Downs, the old folks home around there, and just about anything in between, and really minimizing that barrier between the service and the people serving. And that kind of led me into my time here in Charlotte. So I've been in Charlotte for just about 2 years now. And I'll probably attribute a little bit of this to other people in MLS later, but I was able to get linked up with you here, and I was a little bit of a late bloomer, I think, in coming into finding my service niche in Charlotte, but really happy that I found it when I did with the Laundry Project, and we were able to link up, meet, and develop both a personal and professional relationship.
Yeah, which I'm endlessly grateful for, because I've talked about it on this podcast before with other guests. Like the guests I had on the episode previous to yours is Jason, who runs Current Initiatives, runs the Laundry Project. That you've met Jason, and we kind of talked a little bit about it then, but just the idea that I moved to this area from Ohio in 2018, not knowing anybody or how to get really connected in the community, any of that stuff, but having a similar desire as yours to want to be able to serve and give back and all that. And I had all this experience with the Laundry Project in Ohio, so it was like, how do we make this a reality in the Charlotte area and get more connected in the community? And I don't think it's too hyperbolic to say that, like, getting linked up with you and being able to kind of form that partnership a little bit has really helped. And along with so many people in Charlotte, like, just as it's grown over time, we've had so many volunteers and donors, and it truly is like a community-wide effort to make it happen. But us being able to link up and get connected and kind of combine forces, I think really helped to unlock a lot more, getting more people involved and getting it, making it happen here in Charlotte. So I'm obviously super grateful that we were able to get connected, and should say that the guy who connected us has also been on this podcast and is someone that's very dear to both of us, Brad Stuver. So goalkeeper for Austin FC. I think I talked about before, I had Brad on as a guest about 3 years ago now, which is crazy. But his wife Ashley and my wife Megan were best friends in high school. So that's how the four of us even got connected. Ashley was in our wedding as a bridesmaid. So it's crazy how all those relationships and networking work. But Yeah, maybe talk about like how you got connected with Brad, and we can kind of build the relationship tree here, like, your relationship with Brad. And I know I was kind of unsurprised when you shared about it, that there's like that the goalkeepers just kind of hang out and communicate with each other. It's kind of how it works. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the ongoing joke, the goalkeeper union, you call it, but it's like this weird idea that even the goalkeepers that you don't know, you kind of know, especially with, the dawn of the social media age that we're in now. People ask you, this goalkeeper over here, whether it was a guy in college or a guy pro, and you're like, yeah, like I kind of heard of him. We like support each other from afar. And I kind of think that was one of those things with Brad, and I kind of observed Brad's career from far away. And I don't even think you know this, but I actually, when I was 16 in high school, I was considering moving to Columbus to play for Columbus Crew in their academy. This was before my junior or senior year in high school.
So about 2015?
Yeah, it was probably around 2016, maybe into 2017.
That's like when we first started doing the laundry project with Brad in Columbus, when he was still a part of the crew, working with the academy and stuff. The academy volunteered one time. So there's like a different universe where you could have volunteered.
Exactly. It's crazy how small the world is. But so I actually had the opportunity to train with them for a few days with the first team. And I was in training, and Brad was a nice guy to me. So I don't think he exactly foresaw maybe us linking up a few years later, but yeah, he was a good guy to me. One of my actual teammates here at Charlotte was there as well. Actually, two of them, Harrison Awful and Justin Merrim, guys who I've ended up playing with this year. They were there, and I was just a kid, and all of them they were pretty nice to me. So had a lot of respect for that, but especially Brad. I obviously spoke to him a good amount. He talked to me just kind of about what college I was going to, my trajectory as a potential pro in the future. Obviously, these were all concepts at the time, and nothings that I knew would come to fruition. But obviously after that, it was a little bit of a dead zone. I went to college, had all these experiences and whatnot, and then we played Austin our first year, and we spoke a little bit after the game. I think he had briefly remembered me, and obviously I had been following his career and how he had grown to prominence of starting for Austin, which is absolutely fantastic to see that trajectory, and so well deserved. And followed each other a little bit on social media from there, and had some chats back and forth. And the conversation really started kind of when, obviously, he's very, very involved in the Austin community and outward, and he's won many awards for it, which are super, super well deserved as well. And I kind of thought we had similar temperament, similar interests, and like I said, I was kind of looking for my community niche in Charlotte. And I had seen some of the things that he was doing. So I just reached out and said, as simple as it was, is there anything you could connect me with, either nationwide in Charlotte, or have any ideas for how I could get more involved with the community? And he said, well, matter of fact, I actually have a good friend who's in Charlotte who's doing, the same sort of projects I'm doing with the laundry project. And he said, would you want me to put you in touch? And then the ball kind of just got rolling from there. And, here we are, almost getting close to a year later.
Yeah. Because I think, it was March or April of this year.
Yeah.
We got connected. It's like that Paul Rudd meme. Like, look at us. Who'd have thought?
I know.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm like I said, I'm glad he connected us. That is how the world works. Like in the best ways, is like when you're able to form those networks and kind of, it's cool to see the impact that can have over time. Like basically that initial, like Brad and Ashley getting connected to the laundry project, how they've taken it with them to each city, and zoom out. It's not just about the laundry project, but just when you're a person that you and Brad very much share the same quality, you care about not just being great on the field, but you care about being great off the field, which I feel like is a really important distinction, as you kind of shared it. I feel like that can take you to really cool places. You meet a lot of different people, like get more involved in the community, and you can kind of see your impact grow a little more that way. And not just about like one organization, but you yourself and Brad, and people that are athletes and are visible. You have these platforms, you have this influence kind of built into it, and it's always really cool for me to meet people like you and Brad that acutely understand kind of the position in life you're in. And while obviously the main focus, because the two kind of go hand in hand, like being great on the field and off the field, but the fact that you guys are able to try to balance both and focus on both, I always thought was a quality that really stood out and was really cool to see.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, I've I've always been a big believer in, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I try to apply that to just about everything in my life. And I think I'd consider myself like a studier of just great people in general. I like to read a lot of books, kind of philosophy based. And one of the greatest trends of great people, whether it's people, in any walk of life, especially on the sports field, you don't let the details slip, and, you try to be self-aware and understand that we are super, super blessed and should be super, super grateful every day for the position. And like you said, the platform that we have. And it would be a bit wasteful to not try to project your voice and other people's voices who are trying to, make other people's lives better as far as you possibly could.
Yeah. And I've had a few athletes on the pod, and this is always something I'm very curious about because I'm a big sports fanatic in general. I'm not going to lie. Up until my friendship with Brad and with you, was not hugely into soccer. But now that I have, these awesome people to root for, you better believe I'm locked in week in and week out on Apple TV, getting all the games up, getting the whole thing going. So I love it. Like I've grown into a pretty big fan of the sport in general. But I'm always curious about, and like I've talked about with other athletes I've had on, like my friend Matthew was on a couple episodes ago, and he had a journey where that took him through the NFL and playing football and stuff. And I asked him, and I'll ask you kind of a similar question, like since you're in that world way more than I am, how common is it in a broad sense, like zooming out 30,000 feet, how common, because I feel like the two things. So I feel like Charlotte FC, because I've been fortunate enough through our partnership with the Laundry Project to meet some of your teammates and whatnot, and they've all been incredible humans. So I don't know this world nearly as much as you do. I just feel like with Charlotte FC in general, so many of the guys are wonderful, committed to the same ideas of being great on the field and off the field, really locked into like community service. I see guys have their own projects and things that they're working on and to make an impact. So I feel like as a team, you guys all do a really great collective job of caring about playing great on the field and being great humans off the field. In professional sports in general, in your career field, do you feel like that's a common thing for that focus to be there, being great in both those things? Like, I guess just talk about that dichotomy a little more, like how you see it play out.
Yeah, I think it's definitely pretty common. I think one of the biggest things for me coming especially into the professional level was just everybody's so different, and you can never really give a side eye or judge because you don't really know people's background, and people serve in many different ways, people lead in different ways. So especially for me as when we talk about my soccer lens coming into the team as like a younger guy, watching and seeing, how guys, especially guys that I aspire to be like, interact. That was something that was pretty big to me. So I think if you kind of pay attention to the details, everybody's serving. It's just like on the level that they want to serve, and do they bring other people into it? And that was always something for me, was like, I'm a big believer that if you give people the avenues, they will be great. And they will serve other people, and I'm just a believer that the natural human tendency is to usually be pretty good. So that was one of my biggest goals, was like, okay, how can I make it easy with the Laundry Project? How can I make it easy for my teammates to serve? How can I make it impactful for them so that they maybe start their own thing, or they come back, or they, choose to maybe use their platform in a similar way that I do. So maybe where I see more of the differing is people who take the initiative to like start something or to bring others into it. But I think just about everybody, we got so many great guys around the league, but especially on our team, as you said, who are, so excited and readily available when called upon. So it's just giving them the opportunity.
Yeah. And I don't think I can emphasize it enough how cool it's been to interact with other guys and just, again, see that like really collective commitment to caring about the Charlotte community and really building people up, and that dedication to service. And again, I'm not in it every day like you are, but just as an outsider, it's been really cool to see that kind of dedication to, all that off the field stuff, talk about just being great humans. Everyone I've interacted with has just been incredible. So let's backtrack a little bit. Because I want to, and I'm honestly just curious, because like I said, we've mostly kind of hung out in the laundromats to this point, so I haven't gotten a chance to talk in depth about some of this stuff with you. But like, give us the kind of the summarized version of your career journey. Like, why did you want to become a goalkeeper? Like, or what gravitated you to that position? How'd you get all the way to Charlotte FC? I know you shared some of it of like going through Clemson and all that, but like, kind of like give me like, I'm picturing it like this timeline. Like, what are the plot points of like getting into soccer, goalkeeper? Some of the like, how'd you kind of end up in that linear sense of like where you are today, and I guess even development wise, like how you've seen yourself kind of grow as an athlete over that time, like even in your performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting all the way back, I'd say, I played soccer starting about when I was like 5 years old, which isn't necessarily the earliest when you talk to a lot of these guys, but it's pretty early. And I played it pretty recreationally. It was mostly a striker, I think. I just remember scoring a lot of goals. I think that was more my thing until maybe the age of around 11, I think goalkeeper was. And everybody has this super cool goalkeeper origin story, which I just don't have. I just got thrown in and I liked the ball hitting me in the face, so I kept going in there. But it was pretty early still. So it was about 11 or 12. I was like, goalkeeper's not bad. I like this. I don't have to run so much. I get to ruin the game for everybody else. Everybody's like got their hands on their heads when I make a save. Prevent the only thing that people come to soccer games to watch, which is to see the goals. But yeah, so 11 or 12 started playing goalie. I thought I was pretty good at it. I don't think I actually was very good at it. I think when I was 12 years old, my dad, kind of contacted a local coach to try to train me up a little bit. And that guy's name was Ziggy Zigante. Is one of my biggest models, mentors, guy who kind of melded the way that I played goalkeeper even to this day. And he's still a part of my life. We still train in the off season together. So he kind of developed my technique. And from the age of 12 to, like I said, now, but really a lot until I was 16 or 17, training most days of the week, rain, snow, sleet. I have too many stories of just training on like really god awful fields, like fields that did not need to be trained on that day. Like I remember one particular day, where the field had iced over and it was already like a pretty bumpy field. So it was like flat that day because the dips were filled in with ice because it had rained the day prior. And I was trying to train with cleats, and Ziggy told me before we went out there, he said, "You're going to want to go on tennis shoes. You're going to slip and slide in your cleats." I said, "No, I'm going to go in the cleats." It was like probably a pointless training session, but I remember back to moments like that because that guy, definitely the mental toughness aspect of where I'm at today. That was, I don't think I'm anywhere, maybe even where I need to be yet, but I'm at a much better level than I was then. Because I think I was a little bit soft growing up as a kid, and I let my emotions dictate a lot of what I was doing. I remember just throwing tantrums when I would give up too many goals or when it was too hot or too cold. And he was super even keel through it all and was like, "Hey, keep your head on straight, stick to the task." And that kind of formed how I viewed goalkeeping and how I try to have my goalkeeping temperament today. But yeah, fast forward a few years, I think I was getting a lot better, but I wasn't necessarily recognized for that. So there was the highest level of soccer at that age was it was called academy. I think they've changed the whole structure now, but the academy team. And I tried out like 3 years in a row and got cut every year. Like I would get invited to try out, be like so hopeful, do everything, felt like I did everything right, and I'd get cut until my U16 year. They took me on as the third string goalkeeper, and they never took 3 goalies on these teams. And they took me as the third string goalie because my U15 coach like begged them to give me a chance. And that was kind of, I remember back to that night. I remember they would send the email out at a particular time. And for some reason I'd come home from school or training or something, had taken a nap, and the email was supposed to come by some time, and we thought it didn't come. So I was kind of just like taking a mad nap. And I remember my dad like burst into my room, like screaming, like I felt like the email was in a spam or something, that we had made it. And I have that email printed out on my fridge still today, like my apartment fridge. And to this day, that's probably one of like the biggest moments in my soccer story in my life, because I just remember like me, my mom, my dad, my sister, like we were like all celebrating like we had just won the World Cup. Like it was such a big goal that for 3 or 4 years I hadn't been able to attain, and it was like so joyous. That's all I remember about it. So yeah, still obviously a big moment that I think about probably more than I should. But yeah, so after that it was a lot more linear. Everything felt just a little bit more upwards. So I think by halfway through that season, I was the starting goalkeeper on that team. And then I made the U18 team the year before and was playing up a year. And then by that September of my junior year, I was committed to Clemson. Like everything was moving very fast. And soccer kind of took a different view for me because initially it was something I was very passionate about, but it was, I think at the end of the day, my parents and I viewed it as, okay, this is a tool that we can use to get me into like an Ivy League school. Like if you do well enough, you go to a Yale or a Princeton or something like that, and you could use soccer to get into, further your academic study. And around my junior year, I was like, ooh, okay, I feel like I'm getting pretty good pretty quick. Let's see how far we can take this. And, some ACC schools start reaching out with interest in the area, and becomes a different conversation of, okay, maybe I could, play at a pretty high level and maybe even realize this potential of playing professional later. It's like, my dad's a big baseball guy, so I also skipped out on all that. I played baseball up until I was 14. And when I dreamed of playing a professional sport when I was younger, I dreamed of being a professional baseball player. There's no doubt about it. And I still remember up to this day, I played probably an extra 2 years of baseball just because I was so afraid to tell my dad that I was quitting the sport. It was one of the saddest moments. But yeah, so it all came down to soccer. And I think quitting baseball because I loved it so much was a big thing for me as well, because it made me put all my eggs in the one basket. And I was like, okay, if I'm quitting the sport that I love so much, I'm going to do everything I can to make this soccer dream work out. So I think that also was probably a good forming moment for maybe not the most healthy, but it's undoubtedly gotten me to where I am today of like a little bit of a more is more mentality. Because I just remember come the end of my sophomore year, my first year being on the academy team, I heard that there was like this experimental school where you only had to go 10 hours a week, and I could drop out of my high school and I could basically do online school and train more during the day. So I like asked my parents about it endlessly. At the start, my parents are both academicians, so they were like, absolutely no chance you're doing this. And then it became like, no. And then it became like, okay, we'll look at it. And I like finally convinced them summer before my junior year, like 10 days before the school year started. We went to the open house and you want to jump off the deep end? You can jump off the deep end. Well, we'll be with you here. And that year, that was like another moment where it was like, okay, if I'm doing this, I got to take this seriously. I would ended up being able to have the ability to train with the professional team in the area, North Carolina FC, and they were USL championship at the time. And so I'd go in and train with them like 8:45, in for training, train 10 to 12. Then I'd go do schoolwork from 12 to 2. I'd go work out in like the little gym at the academy from 3 to 3:45. 3:45, I'd train with the goalkeepers. Then I'd go train with my team from 4:45 to like 6:15. And then I would hang around the field and see if the U18s were training and see if I could hop in their training. My parents like calling me. They're like, dude, where are you right now? Like, it's dinner time. I'm like, I'm trying to live the dream out here, I guess. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know if I actually know for a fact I was not being efficient, but I think taking that amount of reps and being out there for the hours, like it kind of put me ahead a little bit. And now I've had to rewire that part of my brain a little bit as a professional, because you can't stay out on the field for 12 hours a day. It's just not feasible. But I'm still a big believer that if you put the time in, usually you can see some results. But yeah, anyways, kind of getting back to it. This kind of led me to my next biggest goal was hoping to play for the national team at some point, which I was also able to accomplish that in high school. One of my best memories, my senior year, getting called up a few times to the U20 national team. Just something that was beyond my wildest dreams. And another thing that I felt like set me up for the idea of like, okay, if I want something bad enough and I align enough of my daily actions, putting me in the right direction towards my goal, I can have much more than I ever thought I could ever get and get closer to my wildest dreams. So I think that was a big moment as well. But yeah, getting into the big formative moments was getting to Clemson. Got into Clemson, thought I was like the top dog. Like you could ask any of my coaches about it from the time. Came in like, I still remember I didn't want to post my commitment picture to Clemson because I was embarrassed that I wasn't going professional like some of the other national team guys. It's like, dude, get your head out of like, there's no shot. It's unbelievable. Just the lack of self-awareness I had at the time. But went in thinking, maybe I can play 1 year and I'll go professional. It's like, dude, you're just nowhere near it. You're nowhere near it. But I ended up going. Freshman year was pretty humbling. At least the first half of the year, barely played at all. Ended up playing a good bit down the back stretch. And was fortunate to end up playing the last 3 years as well, and was able to be a captain for the last 2 years, experience many leadership roles, experience the highs and lows of college soccer, but fortunate to experience a lot of highs. We won, I think it was 3 regular season championships when I was there, an ACC championship, and the national championship the last year. So definitely, when you talk about adversity, it wasn't necessarily an adverse time. But I think that was a tribute to, good leadership from everyone on the team, and high buy-in. The coaches are absolutely fantastic. They've just won another national championship now. And Coach Noonan absolutely knows how to steer the boat the right direction. So learning from some high level leaders like them was so big for me. And I think it really shaped my development as well. And there's countless other people at Clemson. Clemson for me was a time that was like so shaping. And I hope that I can have another period like that where I look back and say, my development was shaped in a similar way at Clemson. Because I still think there's a lot of growth to be had. And I was lucky enough almost 2 years ago today, they just had the super draft again for this year, but had the super draft, didn't know what was going to happen. Kind of the 2 teams that it came down to that I possibly wanted to go to were Atlanta and Charlotte, just so I could, stay in the area. My parents be able to come watch the games. I thought that'd be really cool. I'm a big family guy. And then figured out before the draft, Atlanta was not, even in the mix, and got some word that Charlotte would be interested, and, it all panned out the way it did. And I'm super, super thankful for it. And I don't think if I could go back that I would really change anything. I think in general, I'm a big believer in that. I try to, as much as possible, just love fate and love the hand I'm dealt, because it's the only hand that I ever will be dealt. And the more that I do that, I feel like the more that I make my own luck and things fall my way when I'm just loving the process of living every day, because I know that every day that I'm living is, unfortunately, but it's the reality, closer to the day that I no longer will have the chance to be here and have opportunity. So a bit long-winded, but yeah, that's some of the story.
That's perfect. I love it. I'm super glad you shared all of that, because to be honest, because most of our contact's been working together in laundry project stuff, I haven't had the chance to really kind of hear it laid out like that from start to finish. So just even selfishly, that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast and just be able to get to know some more of those parts of your story, because it did bring you to where you are today. And it's cool to me to hear the growth of, obviously from, the age of when you started playing soccer to now, like you grow just a lot as a person, as a human, whatever. But even that development of, I remember seeing you playing at a Crown Legacy FC game over the summer, and Jason and I were there together, and we were just remarking the whole time that you were like a quarterback on the field, basically. Like you were the quarterback of the team, just being super vocal, leading everything, whatever, like just super engaged, and just being a great leader all the way around. That, like, I've seen you be in a laundry project context, but it's been cool to be able to attend a handful of games like Charlotte FC, the Crown Legacy, whatever this year, and see you doing that on the field, and to hear kind of where you're at today with that versus, like you were saying as a kid, where you're just like, I don't even want to deal with this right now. Like, it's cool to just see that growth in general, play out. Just real quick, what was it like to be at Clemson winning the national championship? I mean, that had to be an incredible experience.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was super crazy. Because I think Clemson was always a really good soccer program, and we were always in contention, especially in recent years. But to actually like do the thing and how quickly the tournament moves, it's like, it just felt like in one moment we were having, another Clemson soccer season that could be good, could be bad, we're close to it. And then all of a sudden you look up and the confetti's in the air, and, the moments passed you by. So it was just a whirlwind. Because I think kind of the way it had gone. So my freshman year, we were really, really bad. Sophomore year, we were unbelievable. Junior year, we were very good, but probably slightly worse than that year. And then the senior year, as far as like the product we were putting on the field, I thought was not as good as the last 2 years. But what we did had was a lot of experience. I think we graduated 13 guys that year. So it was a really old team, guys who had been through the highs and the lows, won some really big games, lost some really big games, and we just have like a wealth of experience and knowledge. And we had a pretty good year. I think we were like 13 or 14-5 going into the tournament. We were the 8th seed, and we didn't even really perform super well in the start of the tournament. It was kind of just like finding a way to get results, which is oftentimes what the tournament's about. Just being a little bit gritty, digging deep, and finding a way to get into the next round. And I'd say we honestly didn't really put in a good performance until the final. And the final was like a full performance, and it was kind of beautiful, flowing football the way that you wanted, to see Clemson play. But I think it was just a testament to the group of guys. And that's something different than maybe the professional ranks. Like college soccer is you're living, studying, playing with your best friends every single day. Everybody's similar age, and you get this, you're living together. You're together all the time. So you get that closeness. And I think it really translates on the field, especially when you have a group of guys who have been together for 4 years. So to be able to like see that come out in like a tangible way of winning a national championship and it being like the last game you ever play for Clemson on the field was crazy. And that's the only word I have for it. And I'm so thankful that it could culminate like that, because I would have viewed it as incredibly valuable regardless. But when you get that payback, it feels like for, all the hard things we did, all the uncomfortable conversations we had, the early morning workouts, every bit of adversity that you feel like you go through that you're told and you believe is for the good, when you actually see it pay off and like you see that linear correlation, that connection, it's like, wow. It makes you want to, reach for the next thing even more.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I had to ask about that specifically too, because I know so many athletes will go their whole career without experiencing something like that, like winning like that. And we're going to be super optimistic and positive and speak it into existence that that's not going to be the last time you experience something like that. So, you're Charlotte FC, fast forward a little bit past Clemson. My biggest question, I think, based off everything you've shared so far, is like Charlotte FC is so unique in being the first MLS team in Charlotte, like being brand new as you were even brand new to MLS. So what's it been like over the last 2 years to watch the club grow, the club's influence in the community grow, which is kind of a crazy thing to say out loud, because I remember the very, very first match, it was already the stadium set a attendance record. So Charlotte was like hungry for this more than I think folks like myself that aren't native to the area, like more than I realized. But what's it been like over the last 2 years to see the club as an entity grow, who's also incredibly dedicated to like a lot of that community work? And it's always so cool to like get online, see all the stuff the club's doing in the community, and each of the players and stuff. But to see that resonate with people in the community, I'm just kind of curious about that, because it's kind of a unique thing, you and the team kind of stepping in this together in a sense, and like growing in that way of like you're here, you're in the MLS, you're doing it,
Yeah, it's really uncommon. And obviously I haven't been different places in the league, but from talking to people and walking around different cities, it just is uncommon. And I'm a big believer that Charlotte's a great sports city. But to have the type of fervor and support that we had absolutely from day one, I think it's just unbelievable. And it all comes down to the support. You don't get to do the things we do. You don't get to have the experiences we have or anything without the support. So that's always first. And I think it adds a little bit of a pressure knowing how many people support the team and how many people care about the team. But that's honestly like a pressure that I relish, and I think our teammates relish every single day, because it's like you don't get to have these highs, these lows, these pressure-packed moments without people caring. It's almost like, what would you prefer? Nobody cares and there's no risk, and there's nobody in the stadium, or when you get the full stadiums and the potential for these high highs, you maybe incur the pressure and the risk of the low lows as well. But it's something that I think about every single time I step out on the field is, I might be just playing this game, which at the end of the day it's all it is. It's a game, soccer. I'm playing this game, but I'm representing so much more than myself or even the guys on the team. I'm representing the fans, their hopes and dreams I have on, my shoulders and my teammates' shoulders. the fate of their night, their emotions, how they feel. We have such a fantastic staff, whether it's the people on the field, whether it's the people on the business side of the venture, the people who do community stuff, and countless people I'm leaving out, but like countless people are employed by Charlotte FC, and they work all week and all year for this moment, for me to play a silly game on the field. And I think I kind of smile at that because it's it's so contrasting, but it's a pressure and a privilege that I'm so honored to have, and it's a dream. And kind of relating back to something I learned from winning that championship with Clemson is like, these moments are so fleeting and they happen and they're gone. So I'm really, as much as possible, no matter how insignificant it feels, just trying to relish every single moment that I get, whether it feels insignificant, whether it is being out on that field in front of 50 to 80,000 people. It's like, it's all these moments that you don't get back. So you need to be fully in them and give them your full attention. And it's what you owe the fans. It's what you owe, the other guys on the team with you. It's what you owe yourself. So it's been unbelievable. And, I said before, I'm from the Carolinas. So to have that feeling of pride right off the bat, to say, obviously I care about my individual career, and I care about this team that we have, but more than anything, I care about the club, and I care about the trajectory of this club and what it's going to do in MLS for years and years to come. And I think that gives me specifically increased desire to play my role to the best of the ability. And so that's whether I'm going to be on the field, whether, I'm on the bench, seemingly not doing something during game. How can I impact the team in the best way so that, this club can hopefully reach the heights that I want it to reach?
Yeah. And I love your perspective on all that. And I appreciate you sharing that, like your perspective on kind of that journey of the club and your role within it. I've gotten to, so the very first Charlotte FC match that Megan, my wife, and I ever went to was June 2022 when Austin was in town, because we were, obviously there to support Brad. We were sitting in the Austin section because we didn't know any better. We wore our Austin Laundry Project shirts. We were cheering on Austin FC the whole time. I think Austin FC even won that game, and we were cheering.
Unfortunately.
So we came into the Charlotte FC fandom kind of in a back channel, like not the proper way you're supposed to. Like we weren't at the inaugural match. We weren't, buying the jerseys like the very first second the team was announced.
But you got there though.
We did get there. That's the important. That's the important thing. Is went to 4 or 5 matches this last season. And even went to one where a couple months ago it was just downpour raining the whole time. I was there just by myself, just getting rained on, soaking it all in, pun intended, because it's an atmosphere. I've been to lots of different sports stadiums and games, different leagues, whatever. But like Charlotte's atmosphere really is unique and really does stand out. Like that's one of the things I noticed from the first game and from the jump is it's so easy as a fan to get sucked into wanting to support it with your whole heart and with like all your passion and all this fervor. Because I've had very few sports experiences like being at Bank of America Stadium for a Charlotte FC home match and seeing everyone in the supporter section, jumping up and down with everyone, like in the pregame stuff. I post about it every time on my stories. I'm like, there's just no atmosphere like it, because I believe that to be true. It's been really cool. And yes, to your point, we did get there with our Charlotte FC fandom. I'm proud to say that every match I went to where Brad Stuver wasn't playing, we have fully cheered on Charlotte FC and supported you and the guys and the whole team and the club. So it's been cool it's just been cool to be a part of that, even as a fan. And we just didn't know any better. We were just cheering on Brad. Like, what are you gonna do?
Did you see we're going to Austin this year? They released a schedule.
I saw that. Yeah, I was, because I'm not gonna lie,
some plane tickets.
I love Brad. I'm always looking like, oh, is he coming back or whatever? But I did. That was my very first thought. I was like, oh, we might have to fly out. But that would actually be a good full circle moment, because if we flew out to Austin and wore our Charlotte FC gear,
there you go.
Then
even Steven
redeem the whole thing. It's like
forgotten.
Yeah, our past sins of cheering on Austin at Bank of America Stadium are forgotten. And I did have one of these cool guys on the team sign a jersey that I bought recently.
Devalue it.
Yeah, It was George. George signed my jersey. And it's not devalued it, it's increased the value and made it so that I don't even want to wash it. But I did have to one time after the rain game because it was really good. Yeah, and luckily the signature stayed on, so we're good to go. So within that, because I want to parlay this into talking about you and your community work specifically, but what's just your general thoughts on the impact you've seen the club and each of your teammates have in the community with, like, we were talking about the off the field stuff. Like, we talked about the on the field atmosphere, how cool it's been to be a part of for you, to like witness for myself as a fan. But what have you seen the impact be? You know, because I shared my perspective of how I see guys being super active. I see the team being super active. What's your perspective on that for your teammates in the club?
Yeah, I think it starts, from the club itself. We're lucky enough to have a guy named Dustin Swinehart. It's kind of head of community relations, and he does a fantastic job. And one of the things that, I was really surprised at, happily surprised, was how good of a job they did at identifying the objectives and how they wanted to affect the community, and like keeping it pretty simple and hitting a few objectives and just like pouring all the resources into it. And something, I've been pretty involved with is their program called Greater Goals, which is, the objective. We talk about their objective. The main objective was, the literacy level at third grade is a big determinant for if kids are graduating high school. So they said that's what we want to impact, and how are we going to do that? And they, work backwards a little bit. And the way they're doing that is kind of making that link between something that's super fun for all young kids, which is kicking the soccer ball around, and then reading. So they have these soccer practices on countless elementary school campuses throughout Mecklenburg County, the greater Charlotte area. And so they sometimes I've come out to a good amount of them. Other players will go out to them, and you basically just play, train a little bit, end up playing some small-sided games, and then at the end you pair it with a reading activity. And it's ingenious because if you've read Atomic Habits by James Clear, great book recommendation. You can kind of, a way to trick your brain is to connect something you don't want to do with something you really like doing, and that thing that you don't like doing becomes something that you want to do when you pair it with the likable thing. And obviously that's a good tool for these young kids who, if you can ingrain a great habit like reading at that age, there's such a better chance of them becoming, reading at or above their grade level, and hopefully going on to at least graduate high school and be filled with knowledge and go off and do great things. But that's just one thing they do. But I think what a thing they also do a good job of is providing the avenue. Like I said, I think our players specifically, but people in general, when you give them the avenue to do good, oftentimes they'll take it. And guys in our team have been great with it, and they've provided ample opportunity. I try and pride myself on taking just about every opportunity I have, even, if I feel tired on an afternoon or something. Realize, like I said, I have this platform, and who knows how long I'll have it for. And I need to affect the community, especially these kids, if it's the kids on the day, in the best of my ability, and try to impart on them some of, hopefully wisdom, but knowledge that I've incurred throughout the years. And especially I'm an avid reader now. And I think it's a big part of my development, my parents starting me reading early. So if maybe they can see the professional soccer player who loves playing soccer, but also likes to read as well and says reading's important, then maybe that could be a trigger for them to, take a correct avenue and hopefully live happy, healthy, productive lives. But yeah, and then from the individual player side, I mean, so many guys are doing so many different things. And some guys are, publicizing it on social media, whatnot. It's easy to follow, and other guys I know aren't. One guy I'll always point out, and a guy I try to take after is Brant Bronico. He had a fantastic fundraiser this year. I believe it was benefiting Beds for Kids. But yeah, he always does such a good job. And there's countless other guys on the team who use their platform to the best of their ability. And that's all you can ask is guys trying a little bit, because, we've talked about it before. Guys have busy schedules. Guys are asked a lot physically on the field, and in the afternoons you could be tired some days. So it could be easy for guys to sit around and do nothing, play video games or something. But, to see guys doing any good out there, especially the guys who have come out and supported me on multiple occasions, Mackenzie Gaines, Patrick Odjumong, Andrew Privet, Ashley Westwood, Adil Simalanda. There's countless other guys who have shown up. So it's they support me. They support good causes. They, like I said, they take the avenue. So it's been great.
Yeah, I've honestly lost count of all the different teammates that have swung through a laundry project to just even support that one thing amongst the other things that they support. And I've just been continuously inspired and impressed by you and by all your teammates and all the stuff everyone's doing in the community. And I actually got to go to that fundraiser, the Beds for Kids fundraiser you mentioned, and you and I chatted a little bit. And I think virtually everyone from the team was at that. And that's just been a cool aspect to, again, just as a witness, like an outside fan, just to see like everybody supporting each other's causes and everything you mentioned that the club's doing. It's just been so cool. So let's dive in to the laundry project. So we've already mentioned it, talked about it a little bit, but what about the laundry project resonated with you? And, what's been your experience, kind of boots on the ground, doing it, seeing it firsthand?
Yeah, it was super eye-opening for me because I think we said we've done 4 or 5 laundry projects together now. 4?
That's a great point you bring up. So we've done in Charlotte total, we've done since October 2022, I believe it's 7 laundry project events. And I know we've been able to help 250 plus families with over 25,000 loads of laundry. And you've been at virtually every one of those. So
yeah, there you go. Underestimated. But yeah, it was super eye-opening for me because that was one of the first conversations we had. I grew up in a household that always had a washer and dryer available. I didn't view it as, a commodity, clean clothes. So that was really eye-opening, just seeing the type of people who were coming through, people from all walks of life, from the people who their washing machine broke on the one day and this is the only day in their life that they will use a laundromat, to people who are only able to come in here, a few times a year to afford washing their clothes or bringing in truckloads of clothes. Seeing that, it really opened my eyes to, obviously there's innumerable amounts of, ways that you can affect people and help people and provide tangible service. But it's just a really cool one. And because I think the biggest thing for me was because it was something that I was just so used to having without thinking about it. Seeing other people, how much it meant to them, like it just, trying to think of the way to phrase this, it made me so much more self-aware and appreciate the blessings I have in my day-to-day life. But I don't think there was anything right off the bat specifically about laundry that was like I said, I didn't have previous experience with it. But I think it was just working with you guys and then the people I met in the community and then the team rallying around it. And, even hearing guys on my team who had used laundromats before, just made me realize how big of a cause it could be. This is all kind of part of me finding my niche in the Charlotte community, which I am trying to grow even further, of just trying to find different ways to help people. Like I said, with Stuver connecting me to it felt like such an easy segue, and it's connected me to so many other people. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah. Obviously I've loved having you as a part of it. And, again, just what you brought to it has made those 7 projects possible in so many ways, and all those families having that tangible need met possible in a lot of ways. Have you, just in your interactions with folks at the Laundry Project, has there ever been like just a story or maybe just general kind of similar stories you've heard or something that as you talk with the customers that are using it, like stuff that's just kind of stuck out to you about, what they've shared about why they're there, what laundry represents as being able to meet a tangible need for people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of the stories just from the first day were the ones that hit me the hardest, just because I just didn't really know what I was coming into so much. And it was kind of that disparity. I think on the first day, there was someone who came in and said, my laundry machine broke and I've never been here before. I don't know how to work the machines. And I was like, that is a person who could be using the laundromat, and they're a person who needs help today. So we're going to serve them. And then, the other end of the spectrum, someone coming in with literally a truckload of clothes that had not been washed the entire year. And, they had gathered enough money to finally do laundry, and how excited they were that they did not have to use, the precious money they had. And, people talking about choosing between eating for the day or doing their laundry, like just a choice that you would never think would have to be made nor should be made. I just think that hits so hard. And then it's just something that always hits me hard is when people, whether they're in a good situation or not a good situation financially, people are always coming looking to donate because they think it's so great. And I think that's just another example of if you provide the avenues for people, like people are inherently good and people want to do good and they want to help others, especially if you've helped them. So seeing people pass that on. And, I think I can remember to one particular day, I think it was it was either the first it might have been the second laundry project I did. We had played the night before because we usually schedule the laundry projects for Sundays so that I can make them because we play on Saturdays. We played the night before and I played and I made a terrible mistake in the last minute of the game for us to tie. Like entirely on me. Made a mistake at like 9:30 at night and the laundry project was at like 9 a.m. the next morning. And I just woke up and I was like, dude, the last thing I want to do right now is go to a laundromat and help people do laundry. But I was like, I committed. I'm a man of my word. This is a moment of like we've spoke before, how you do one thing's how you do everything. So I'm going to show up. And I showed up and by the end of the day, like the stormy cloud above my head was gone. I'd met so many fantastic people and, even further proved that, serving other people is in a selfish way, the best way to, warm your own heart because it's so fulfilling. And it would give you something that serving yourself or doing, the everyday thing for yourself will never give you. So those are ones that stick out to me, but I remember that day coming in like, how can I possibly help other people when I feel this way? And you can, if you want to, you just have to, commit.
It's hard though. I've been doing this for 13 years and I've had many days before projects where because of whatever's going on in my life, it was like the last thing I wanted to go and do exactly like you said was step out and try to serve other people or try to empathize with other people, meet other people, whatever, build those connections. But I think to me, the reason, and I think we've talked about this before, the reason I've stayed involved with the laundry project since I was in college, obviously, for me, it resonates with my own personal story of a family that grew up in a situation where we had to kind of struggle to get by a lot for a lot of different reasons. And so we had people be generous to us and help us. And, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without people, just being a part of the community I was in and trying to do good things and give back and all that stuff. So for me, it's a personal thing, but then it's also, like we talk about being able to meet a tangible need for people and how you see, kind of a theme of you and I talking in this conversation is like, even the seemingly smallest things can have this large impact. Like you just deciding to play soccer led you to where you are today. Brad just shooting both of us a text and connecting us. We're sitting here today. Like laundry is one of those things to me where it can seem really like, oh, whatever, like we all have washing machines, who cares, that kind of thing. But yeah, when you realize that it's actually a part of this kind of bigger ecosystem for folks that live in cities and communities all across the country that are kind of struggling to get by each day, and they're making choices of laundry and paying bills or, having to go to soup kitchens like I did growing up to get meals. Like you're just struggling to meet those basic needs of like security and safety and having your tangible needs met. I had somebody describe it to me recently after I gave a talk that they were like, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like if you don't feel like you have shelter, security, or all that kind of stuff, how can you kind of self-actualize? And that's the struggle that so many people are living with of, there's so much potential and so many good people and good things happening in all these communities. And, it's like, how can we all partner together to help all of us self-actualize? And I think that's the level that I hear you describing where, again, why I've been involved so long, where it kind of goes deeper for me is like, even if it was just helping people with clean laundry, that would be reason enough. But the idea of being able to build bridges and community and each of us learn from each other, step outside of ourselves, and using the laundromat like a third space, like a coffee shop, like a whatever, where you're there and communing as like human beings and gaining other people's perspectives, empathizing with each other, showing compassion, serving people in your community, all of that. Like that's been the thing to me that's been really resonant throughout time, is that combination of you want to serve, meet a tangible need. It's a very impactful and powerful thing, but the way it just connects people, and to your exact point, just helps us kind of step outside of ourselves, because we all get caught up in our own, like what we're going through, and can, for each and every one of us, it can be easy to forget like how to really truly empathize with another human and kind of meet people where they're at and try to serve each other.
Absolutely. And I just think the act of showing up for someone else, even if it's a complete stranger, just will completely embolden that other person to say, okay, if this stranger is showing up for me, who am I to not show up for myself? To try to be the best version of myself, and maybe, to even pass that love on to the next person. So the power of words and the power of actions are so incredible, both negative and positive, and can completely, divert people's life trajectories if used in, correctly or unfortunately poor ways. So you've got to do your best to uplift people, and that's with both actions and words, and never tear them down.
Yeah. Give me, because you and I actually have another meeting after this.
We do.
So
businessmen.
we're very business oriented. It's all business here in the
suit and ties,
George and Corey friendship.
No pants on.
No fun is had. Just straight up business. Give me a minute. I'd be remiss if we didn't touch on it at all, but like, talk to me about like the sports psychology, like the mental toughness stuff that you kind of focus on too.
Yeah, I think it's something that has definitely evolved for me over the years. And we spoke a little bit earlier. So kind of finding my love for sports psychology. I saw a sports psychologist a few times in high school, but it really started in college. When I was struggling that first year, kind of looking outward for help, when I probably should have been looking inward. But, was fortunate enough to have a guy named Corey Easterday, who's a big mentor in my life and in my career. I was a sports psychologist who was contracted to Clemson, and kind of helping me, through my time on the field there when I wasn't playing. And, a lot of that was just shifting my attention onto what I was doing and if I was controlling the controllables, as simply as that sounds. And before I can look outward and assign blame to anybody else or anything else, am I, making sure that my own house is in order? And that was kind of a revelation for me, is like, I'm never going to be able to control what other people do, what other people think, uncontrollable actions or emergencies or things that could ever happen, but I can control what I do on a daily basis, what I say, what I think, and then how I react to the uncontrollable things that are happening to me. And a lot of the way that I thought about it, especially through college, I have even definitely done an internship in sports psychology while I was in Clemson with Corey's company, Ampelos, considering it as a potential post-soccer job as well. But I think the way I've shifted before is, I think, especially while I was in college, but even the start of my professional career at times, viewing sports psychology through purely a performance perspective, not kind of ignoring that mental health and maybe life off the soccer field. Whereas, through my own studies, through conversations with people like Corey and other people I trust, kind of evolving and moving up into just like exactly, how we talked about multiple times in this podcast already, how you do anything's how you do everything. And I'd be remiss to only think of, sports psychology and philosophy in terms of what goes on the soccer field. And the way that I approach my entire life is going to reflect itself on the soccer field. So, I'm like I said, I'm an avid reader. So, Ryan Holiday is a favorite of mine. He's wrote a bunch of books that I really, really like, that I think they were actually recommended to me by Corey, but, really shaped the way that I think about stuff on the soccer field, but also life. It's kind of parlayed into a few of my other favorite books, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, countless others. Of course, when you go on a podcast, they blank off your mind. But
that's always how it goes.
Yeah, I think as much as mental performance is important, like also resiliency, forgiveness. There's all these like side components of like not just how to be a really good goalkeeper and a really good soccer player and like a productive human being, because that's a part of who I am and who I want to be, but also like these other things. How can I serve others? How can I live, a fulfilling, happy, healthy life? And that's both in body and in mind. So I think that's kind of how it's evolved to be a little bit rounder and not just ignoring like the other half of George Marks, who's not a goalkeeper, as silly as that sounds.
No, that makes perfect sense. Like it's, for you, it's being a professional athlete. And as we've talked about the on the field, off the field, but I feel like for every human being, we all have these seemingly disparate parts of our identity, and we're all trying to figure out how the puzzle pieces fit together and just, how to be a self-actualized version of ourselves. Like it's almost like you have to figure out how to kind of empower yourself and learn a lot of that mental toughness and resiliency. And I've been in therapy for a long time, like big believer in psychology, sports or otherwise, just the like developing in self-awareness. You've shared a lot throughout our conversation about being present in the moment, all that kind of stuff, the mental resiliency to like, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to go do it anyway. All that kind of stuff. I feel like as we become more self-actualized as people and focus on like, we're trying to grow, like you said, you like to read a lot, like we do all that stuff for ourselves. I feel like it makes us better and more equipped to kind of be that life-giving person or help do that for the people around us to kind of help unlock other people's potential. And I feel like that's when we're all, and this is just very general thoughts kind of going off what you said, because I'm not trained in the sports psychology world specifically, but just some of these common themes about how we can kind of unlock one another. And it kind of starts with, a lot of time focusing on our own growth. It's, I described it this way in conversation with somebody one time. I feel like life is very much the individual and the community and how they relate to each other. So it's like focusing on our growth as individuals and our identity and figuring all that out, like you've shared, and then figuring out how that looks in community and surrounding ourselves with good people. You've mentioned numerous times through our conversation people that have helped you to kind of get to where you're at. And I have a lot of those people myself. So it's like both. It's like we're growing as individuals, we're figuring it out. That's meant to serve the greater community. But then it's like being a part of a great community helps to serve us as individuals. Does that make sense? Like
Absolutely.
Kind of the symmetry. Like we need good people, but we also have to focus on a lot of the stuff you shared. And I don't know. I'm just fascinated by all of it. So I appreciate you sharing about that too and sharing your story and your journey, because there's a lot of those themes throughout of how you've gotten to where you are today, growing as an individual, putting the hard work in, all the stuff you've done to kind of make it happen, and then the people that have been there to support and help guide along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe that every single one of us is just a product of, the people who have been around us. That's just, as much as there is a little bit of nature there, it's a whole lot of nurture. So, I'm trying to do my best every single day to, be the best man and the best goalkeeper that I can be. But I think I had to be shaped by my parents and all these special people around me to be aware that that was my purpose. So, it's been unique. And like I said, I'm 24, so I've got a whole lot of life to live, hopefully, knock on wood. And hopefully I can have maybe the same conversation with you in a few years, a few decades. And, I've got a completely revamped, changed, outlook, because that's how life seems to work.
Yeah, same, my friend. I'm 34, so basically exactly 10 years older, but it's a lot
like
of
29, basically.
Yeah, it's like 34 is the new 29. Like,
yeah,
it's
that's
whatever.
what I heard.
But yeah, it's a lot of the same stuff I think about, like, what's things going to look like in a decade. And I think, I just appreciate your mindset of like wanting to grow and like wanting to be forward thinking and all that and to be helpful to other people. And so to that end, kind of one of the last questions is just like, what encouragement, would you give to anyone listening that maybe is coming up and playing or would just resonate with any of the stuff you've talked about? What would you tell yourself 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Like, what is, when people ask you that question, what is some of the just advice and encouragement you give people?
Yeah, I'd say, we covered a little bit of it, but I think just the power of like the present moment, one, for getting things done. I think you're just always going to find you're less distracted. You're more you're or everything that you think you want to be when you're in the moment. Ultimately, the past and the future, they did happen and they will happen, but they're not real in this moment. All that matters is right now. And you need to live in that moment as much as possible. And I think that also, just from like a fulfillment standpoint, every moment that you live, you're never getting it back. So you better be like fully in it, especially if you're, doing things you love. If you're with the people you love, you have to be grateful and understand that these things can't be taken for granted, because they can be taken away in a single moment, like many people experience every single day. And then I guess the other thing would just be, there's no excuse to not do your best ever. That's always in your control. There's going to be a million reasons why it feels like you can't do your best because other people or other things are in your way. But that's one of the only things that you have, is just to give 100% of what you have on the day. And I often find that things tend to work out when you do that.
Yeah, excellent advice. If people want to get connected with you further, social media or maybe the club, tell us how we can kind of keep following your journey, the club's journey, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at GeorgeMarks_31. That's my soccer number, 31. So that's why it's 31.
Are you 24 on Instagram? Are they different?
I think I'm 31 on both. I don't know. I don't have either downloaded
if only
at the moment. But
it's fair. If only one of us had a phone that could take 1 second. Oh no, yeah, you are 31.
Changed.
Wow.
Linked it up.
Wow, look at
good.
Look at me trying to tell you. Yeah, look at me trying to tell you what your handles are.
My Facebook is all pins from my mom's Facebook that she posted and tagged me of. So maybe don't look for that one. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know if I've ever really posted anything on LinkedIn, but if you would like to offer me a job that starts in about 20 to 23 years, hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah, that would do it. I've got a YouTube. Go check me out.
Incredible. The club is, pretty easy to find at Charlotte FC, all that kind of stuff.
Charlotte FC. Go follow it.
I cannot believe I tried to tell you what your hand. Well, I feel like it was 24.
It was at one point.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I changed it just so that for this moment I could just say one handle.
So you could just like make me look like a jerk for trying to tell my guests what. All right.
Better prepare better.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Well, at least the end of the podcast, and
we should probably redo this.
Yeah. Oh, you just want to start the whole thing over?
Yeah, let's go again.
Yeah, that's true. That one mistake on my part. We'll just have to. Okay, at George Marks _31, correct? At Charlotte FC, Instagram, Twitter. Hit him up in 25 years for a job in LinkedIn. Never mind the Facebook. All that good stuff. George, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Been wanting to have you on since we kind of first got connected. And I just really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your story. And I look forward to, more partnership in the community. And, just thank you. You're an awesome guy. It's been great to get to know you. I really appreciate you, what you represent, how you kind of comport yourself, your leadership, all that stuff. You've helped me to grow as a person. It's been an inspiration to kind of have you as a friend. So I appreciate you a lot. And thank you so much.
I appreciate it, my man. I look forward to getting the newfound comedy skills here soon.
Oh.
And that will be on the podcast.
Yes, it will be. Okay, yeah. Corey's taking stand-up comedy lessons. I'll talk about that more.
That's a story for another day.
That's a story for another day.